The silence of space wasn't peaceful. It was mocking, loud in its emptiness. I floated there, half dead, half awake, completely forgotten. The oxygen warning blinked red on my HUD. Not that it mattered anymore. My crew was gone. The dropship was shredded in half, and I was just a piece of meat in a torn-up EVA suit, drifting like trash in orbit over a planet no one cared about. We'd been sold out. I knew it the second the orbital flak system didn't engage. We weren't even supposed to land on Zarin 4 without suppression fire. Someone back at command signed the death warrant. Someone with brass and just enough cowardice to bury the truth. I saw a dozen of my brothers burn in the atmosphere before the rest of us even hit dirt. And when we did, those bastards were already waiting. Zern Dominion. 10-foot-tall insectoid freaks with bioplasma guns that chewed through steel and bone alike. They tore through our platoon like we were practice targets. I fought, yeah, bled hard. I don't even remember how I ended up back in orbit. Maybe I crawled to the evac shuttle during the chaos. Maybe someone dragged me. Either way, it didn't matter. The ship never made it. All I remember is the explosion, the screaming in my earpiece, and then silence. Endless, cold, suffocating silence. I tried to scream, but there's no sound in space, just the hiss of my own dying breath. I wasn't afraid of dying. That part came easy. What made me want to tear my own throat out was being forgotten, being used, then discarded. They'd wipe the records, call it classified, and pin medals on some desk officer who'd never seen a single drop of blood in zero gravity. I clenched my jaw, tasting copper from where I bit my tongue. Eyes fixed on the distant stars. Just waiting. Praying to no one. Not for a miracle, just for something. Anything. I didn't want to die floating like a bag of meat, not like this. And then, it came. A vibration. A low hum in the vacuum. Not heard, felt, through the bones, through the soul, a shape, cold, massive, cutting across the darkness like a blade through silence. A warship. A human warship. I blinked, thought I was hallucinating, thought hypoxia was messing with my brain. But then the comm crackled in my ear, sharp, full of static and anger. Unidentified Marine, you still breathing? This is HWS Vengeance. Locking on to your beacon. Hold tight. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Throat too tight. Chest too full. It wasn't just a ship. It was our ship. One of ours. And judging by the tone of that pilot's voice, someone up there was ready to burn half the galaxy to get us back. I don't know how they found me. I don't know who sent them. But I knew one thing. Somebody screwed up. Bad. Because they left me to die in space. And now we were coming back. They reeled me in like broken freight. The magnetic grappler latched onto my suit, jerking me toward the docking bay of the HWS Vengeance. Each pull dragged pain through my chest, ribs grinding where they'd cracked. I couldn't scream, couldn't breathe properly, but hell, that pain meant I was still alive, and right now that was a problem for somebody. The Vengeance's airlock hissed open. Warm, recycled air blasted against my frost-bitten face, and gravity slammed me to the floor as they decompressed the dock. Boots pounded in. Hands grabbed me, rough, urgent, not gentle in the least. That was good. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted truth. And blood. Pulse stable, get that helmet off. A medic, sharp-eyed and shaking with adrenaline, yanked at my gear. My helmet cracked off and someone cursed. Jesus, he's a ghost. My face was a mess, probably pale as a corpse, eyes bloodshot, lips cracked from vacuum exposure. I couldn't speak yet, but I didn't need to. I locked eyes with the nearest man, and he understood right away. This wasn't just a rescue. This was an interrogation with fate. They got me to medbay, but I refused to go under. I swore, growled, and finally threatened to tear my IV out unless I spoke to the ship's CO first. You got fire left in you, the nurse muttered. Damn right you're a Marine. Captain Grant showed up 20 minutes later. His face was hard steel, eyes like 2 bullets locked in a chamber. He didn't say, welcome back. He didn't even say, glad you're alive. He just stepped in close, leaned down, and asked, Who burned you? No sympathy, just fire. My kind of man. I forced the words out, jaw clenching with every syllable. Flak system never activated. They knew we were dropping. Zerns hit us with coordinated ground fire. There was no orbital recon, nothing. We got sent to die. He didn't blink, just nodded once, like he'd been expecting it. We pulled the black box logs off the crashed dropship orbiting Gerin 4. Matches your story. Whole op was off books. Command back home classified the entire deployment 3 hours after your squad left the dock. Like it never happened. A chill ran down my spine. Not the cold kind. This one crawled. Greasy, sharp. Which command? He hesitated. Fleet High, out of Orion Block Delta. Of course, the suits with polished boots and gold insignias, the ones who never bled but gave orders that cost lives. They were playing games again, sending men to test enemy reactions, to poke the hornet's nest and log the data while we got chewed up. You lost the whole squad, he added, voice low. 91 Marines, gone in under 5 minutes. I laughed. The sound was dry, bitter. I wasn't laughing at the dead. I was laughing because now I understood the game, and the rage inside me wasn't hot. It was cold, focused, pure. I want names, I said. Captain Grant didn't smile. He just tapped his datapad, slid it across my cot. They already know you're alive, he said. Intercepted transmissions from Orion Command suggest they're moving to discredit the logs. You'll be labeled mentally unstable, hallucinating from exposure, PTSD. They'll say you imagined the betrayal. They won't get that far, I said. Not if we hit back first. He nodded. That's why we came. He straightened, his voice shifting to a more formal tone. You're being reinstated to active duty. Field promotion, Sergeant First Class. Vengeance is launching a Black Ops strike. Unauthorized. Off record. You in? I didn't even pause. You're damn right I'm in. They gave me 48 hours in recovery. I used 12. Rest was for the dead, and I'd already tasted enough of that. In the armory, I found my suit waiting. Not mine exactly, but close enough. Repaired, upgraded, reinforced chest plate, new HUD with enhanced threat detection, and a neural sync glove that let my sidearm respond like it was part of my nervous system. But it wasn't the tech that mattered. It was the name they'd stamped onto the plating across the chest, Sergeant D.A.N.E. A name they tried to erase. A name that was now coming back to bite them. On the lower deck, I met the strike team, Bravo Unit, Black Division. These weren't standard infantry. They were ghosts, former spec ops, dishonorably discharged, survivors of missions that officially never existed. And yet, here they were, reactivated under Grant's command. Every man in that room had a reason to be angry. Every man wanted payback. And I had the most reason of all. They gave us the target, a classified relay station orbiting Kepler-6, hidden under the guise of a weather satellite, but actually used for deep space command data routing. That's where they stored logs. That's where evidence lived. Destroying it wouldn't help us. We were going to hijack it, broadcast the truth to the entire Terran fleet. Unfiltered, unapproved, unapologetic. If we were going to go down, we'd take the whole rotten system with us. The jump to Kepler-6 was smooth, silent. Tension thick in the warship's belly. I sat in the drop bay, locked in with 6 other men. No one spoke. Not really. There were a few muttered curses, a few checked weapons, but most just stared ahead, waiting for the moment when blood would finally be drawn on the right enemy. And I couldn't stop thinking about the silence again. Not the silence of space, But the silence after betrayal, the kind that stretches across your chest like ice until your heart goes numb. I wasn't going numb this time. The drop alarm buzzed once. Prepare for breach. No survivors on the other side. Perfect. The pod hit the relay's outer shell like a hammer. We punched through the station's fake hull with mag lances, then poured into its dark guts like a virus. The defenders weren't Zerns. They were human. Terran security. Black-armored, no insignia. Meant to be invisible. Same kind of bastards who sat back and watched my squad get turned into ash and bones. We didn't shoot for the legs. We didn't shoot to disable. We shot to end. My pulse never spiked. Not even when the first guard took a round through the visor. Not even when I cracked the butt of my rifle across someone's jaw so hard it shattered his helmet. I moved like I was back on that battlefield. Only this time, I wasn't being sacrificed. This time, I was the reckoning. We took the station in under 6 minutes. Clean. Bloody. Righteous. I moved straight to the data core, tore out the encryption manager, and hard-linked it to our ship's relay. Grant's voice echoed in my ear. Go loud, all of it. Let them choke on the truth. I uploaded the logs. Every casualty report they buried, every comm they blocked, every report we sent from Zarin 4 that got flagged and deleted. Names, ranks, orders, and I added one thing of my own. A video of me, floating in space, broken, bleeding, left to die. And at the end, I looked straight into the camera, voice like gravel grinding in a coffin. This is what you did to us. But we're still here, and we're not done. Your move now, Commander. You tried to erase me. Now I'm the voice that won't shut up. I'm the ghost in your comms. I'm the storm you thought would never return, and I've brought the war with me. The broadcast detonated like a warhead in the heart of the Terran military machine. We watched it spread, planet to planet, outpost to outpost, fleet to fleet. What began as a stolen signal from a so-called weather satellite became the viral plague of truth. Ships started getting the footage, encrypted inboxes lit up, forums locked down, and then, one by one, systems began leaking it to civilian networks. No one could stop it, not anymore. The bastards at Orion Block Delta tried, of course. They scrubbed feeds, threatened news drones, pulled entire communication arrays offline. But it was too late. You can't unring a bell, and you sure as hell can't silence the voice of a Marine who came back from the grave. And I wasn't the only one speaking now. Turns out my little truth bomb ignited a firestorm across half the outer sectors. Other survivors started crawling out from under the weight of the lies. Men who'd been discharged as unstable, women branded unfit, squads disavowed for knowing too much. Suddenly, I wasn't a ghost. I was a symbol. And symbols burn harder than fuel. Inside the Vengeance, things turned tense fast. Grant kept us moving, never in one system for more than 6 hours. The second they traced our jump signature, they'd send hunters. And the kind of hunters Orion Command used weren't the usual cruisers or recon ships. They sent cleaners, strike teams loaded with gas cannons, neural disruptors, and zero regard for Geneva Conventions. They didn't come to negotiate. They came to wipe. We saw the first one 2 days after the broadcast. We were docked at a refueling station on the dark side of Juno's ring. Supposed to be quiet, friendly. But the second we undocked, we caught a glimpse of it. Black hull, no markings, glowing red drives. They weren't there to talk. Grant turned the ship without a word and threw the Vengeance into full burn. I was in the medbay, still stitching up a cracked rib from the relay fight, when the G-forces hit. My body slammed against the wall, and alarm screamed across the deck. I didn't need to ask questions. I just grabbed a mag pistol and headed straight to the bridge. By the time I got there, we'd lost shields on the lower stern. "Return fire!" I barked. "No effect," the weapons officer replied. "Their armor's reinforced with something exotic. We've never seen readings like this." "They're not after a fight," Grant muttered. "They're after cleanup." We didn't wait. Grant ordered a blind jump. Dangerous, illegal, unplotted. The kind that could spit us out near a star or inside a rock. But better to roll those dice than sit still and wait for a kill shot. We jumped. And somehow, we made it through. Came out in the debris field of an abandoned mining colony, somewhere in no man's space between Vega and Zora's spine. There were no charts for this place, just rocks, ghosts, and wrecks. It became our hiding place, our base of operation, our war room, because now, this wasn't about escape anymore. It was about bringing down the system. I met Rhett in that field. He was a communications slicer, ex-Special Forces, turned smuggler after his squad got iced in a black site purge. He'd been watching the Vengeance's broadcast like a lot of exiles had, waiting to see if it was real. Once we landed, he risked a jump out to meet us. Skinny guy. Quiet eyes. Talked like someone who'd seen too much and survived anyway. "Been waiting for someone to throw the first punch," he told me as we walked the shattered halls of the old colony base. "Didn't think it'd be the ghost of Zarin IV." "Neither did I said. We sat in the command bay, now repurposed into our planning hub. Rhett laid out data like cards on a table, encrypted chains, black site coordinates, fleet movement logs that should have been buried. "You're not the only squad that got ghosted," he said. "There's dozens. Some from a decade ago, some from last year." He paused, narrowed his eyes at me. "They're not just testing weapons on the enemy. They're testing us, using frontliners like you to push political agendas, manipulate treaties, spark conflict." I clenched my fist. "You saying they've been sacrificing Marines to start wars?" He nodded. Slowly. "War sells. War controls populations. War makes people afraid, and afraid people obey." I couldn't sit. I stood, heart racing, mind boiling. "They turned us into pawns." "No," he said. "They turned you into a message." That was when I knew we weren't just exposing truth anymore. We were building a revolution. Word spread. Fighters started joining up. Small crews, rogue AIs, disenfranchised engineers, even ex-naval officers with more honor than their commanders ever had. They didn't come for glory. They came because they saw something in the flame I'd lit. A reason to fight that wasn't wrapped in a flag or signed by some admiral from a glass tower. They came because someone finally said, "Enough." We rebuilt the Vengeance with stolen tech, bolted alien shielding onto our hull, wired in black market weapon systems. Rhett rigged a quantum ghost protocol to make us vanish from fleet scanners. We became a phantom warship, a floating nightmare to command, and a symbol to every boot on the ground who'd ever been ordered into hell by a man who never bled. And then came the signal. A fragment, a call for help. From a place no one had heard from in years, Theta 9. It used to be a Terran military science lab. Off limits, shut down after incident reports. Now it was calling for aid. One word repeated over and over again, embedded in a data loop. Survivors. I didn't hesitate. Grant didn't either. "They'll expect us to go," he said. "It's a trap." "Maybe," I answered. "But if there's even one more of us out there, they're not dying alone." We prepped the jump. Rhett sliced the signal deeper and found something that made his voice crack for the first time since I'd met him. "Dane, one of the call signs from Theta 9 matches someone from Zarin IV." My heart stopped. "Who?" He turned the screen. "Corporal Hale." He'd been in my squad. We'd thought he burned on re-entry. Now, he was calling me from the dead. We dropped out of warp near Theta 9 3 hours later. The system was dead quiet. No communications, no defense grid. Just a single black structure sitting on the surface of an ash-covered moon. We prepped the drop squad. I suited up. This time, I wouldn't be the one floating in silence. This time, I was bringing the storm with me. As the drop pod sealed and the green light lit up, I felt it again. That hum in my bones. That cold fire. That echo of betrayal that never really went away. Only now, it wasn't paralyzing. It was purpose. The pod launched, burning through the thin atmosphere, kicking up clouds of dust as it slammed into the surface beside the Theta 9 facility. The hatch blew open. I stepped out. Pulse steady. Weapon ready. And for the first time since they left me to die, I was the one doing the hunting. Theta 9 was dead quiet on the outside. No gunfire, no signs of battle, no distress beacons, just that black facility squatting like a tumor on the ash-covered moon. But inside was rot. We breached the outer doors with plasma cutters. The metal hissed, then gave way with a screech that echoed across the barren rock. 4 of us moved in. Me, Rhett, Grant, and a sniper named Vic. We came in silent, weapons raised, HUDs synced. The moment we crossed into the main corridor, the stench hit us. Rotting meat, burnt circuitry, and something else, chemical, synthetic, like sterilizer that had given up. The walls were white once, probably. Now they were a mix of soot and something darker. Dried blood, acid burns, scratch marks deep and wide. Something had gone very wrong here. We found the first body near the elevator shaft, still in uniform. No helmet. His eyes were wide open, lips frozen in a scream, half his throat melted. A tag hung from his chest. Lieutenant Cross, research lead. Vic kneeled beside him. No bullet wounds, he said, but his comm was fried from the inside. Neural feedback, maybe. They did this to their own. I kept walking, past more bodies, scientists, soldiers, not a single Zern in sight. Whatever killed these people, it wasn't alien. It was homegrown. We reached the command center. Rhett patched into the terminal. His fingers moved fast, too fast, like his hands already knew the system. Within seconds, screens lit up, logs scrolling faster than we could read. Then a holo popped up, and my stomach turned. It was a feed, recorded 3 weeks ago. A dimly lit room, one chair in the center, a man strapped to it, barely alive, his uniform torn, his face bruised beyond recognition. But I knew that voice, that slouched posture. That was Hale, Corporal Hale. My brother from Zaren 4, he was alive, he had made it. But whatever they'd done to him here, it wasn't rescue. Test subject Theta 902 confirms atmospheric survival under Zern bioplasma exposure, a voice said from off-screen. Cold, clinical. Then came the question. Subject, do you remember the events of Operation Dustwind? Hale blinked slowly. His lips moved, barely audible. We were betrayed. Then static, screaming, the feed cut off. The room went silent. I stared at the frozen frame. Hale's face, bloody, broken, but alive. Still holding on. Rhett looked at me. They brought him here to test him. They're experimenting on survivors, seeing what makes you tick, what makes you survive the impossible. They're using us like rats, I whispered. Number worse, Grant said. They're building something. He tapped another feed. This time a lab. Bright. Clean. Dozens of pods lined the walls, each one holding a body. Some twitching, some screaming silently behind reinforced glass, some not human anymore. Twisted. Fused. Hybrids. Jesus, Vic muttered. They're making Zern human soldiers, I said. I felt it in my bones, in my blood. Rage clawed its way out of my throat. This isn't research, this is a goddamn breeding lab! We swept deeper into the facility, following signals, following the flicker of Hale's comm signature. We hit resistance 2 floors down. Not from soldiers. From security drones. Terran-built, AI-enhanced, reprogrammed to shoot anything that didn't match internal DNA scans. We fought like demons. Close quarters. EMP grenades, silenced pistols, magnetic knives. I took 2 slashes across my thigh. Grant got clipped in the side. Rhett almost lost an arm when a drone latched onto him. But we pushed through. Because we were close. And then we found him. Room 47B. We breached it clean. Flashbang, breach charge, push. And there he was, strapped to a gurney, IV lines in both arms, metal clamps holding his skull in place, eyes wide open, not moving, barely breathing. Corporal Hale. His eyes met mine. And for a second, I thought he didn't recognize me. Then he whispered, "They told me you were dead." I stepped in, ignored the pain in my ribs, the blood in my boot. I put my hand on his chest. "I'm not, and neither are you." We cut him free. Rhett disabled the locks. Hale collapsed into my arms, too weak to stand. His skin was pale, his spine wired with nanofibers, like they'd turned him into a living conduit. "They used me," he choked. "They wanted to know how I lived. They said survival was a gene." "What did they want from you?" His lips trembled. His body shook. "They want to build us, not train, not recruit, building they think soldiers like us can be cloned, enhanced, made loyal, made obedient." My stomach turned again. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was eugenics. It was militarized evolution. They weren't sacrificing us to win wars. They were mining us to create better tools. And they were close. We got Hale out. Barely. Rhett triggered the station's meltdown protocol, said he couldn't let the data fall into enemy hands. I agreed. But as we ran back through the burning corridors, the alarms blaring, the facility falling apart, I couldn't stop thinking about what we'd just uncovered. Theta 9 wasn't unique. It was a prototype, the first of many. We hit the surface just as the moon cracked under the explosion. Flames reached skyward as the Vengeance pulled us in on grappler hooks, and I saw Hale look back one last time. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "They took everything from me," he said. I nodded. "They took everything from all of us. But now they'll pay." Back on the ship, we put him under full medical. Rhett pulled every log he could from Hale's neural implant. Some of it scrambled, some of it encrypted. But enough of it was clear, enough to paint the next target, Outpost Corin 12, an asteroid lab in the Helix cluster, designated black, not even on military maps. Hale said that's where they were taking all surviving test subjects, all the failed clones, all the hybrid abominations. Command was building an army, but not one made of men, one made of monsters. "Why build soldiers," I said aloud, "when you can design them to never question orders?" Grant's jaw tensed. "That's the endgame. Obedient, enhanced, engineered weapons. No conscience, no fear, no humanity." "They'll replace us," I said. "Erase us. One gene-spliced Marine at a time. Unless we hit them first." I turned to the crew, to Rhett, to Vic, to every broken soul who signed on for this ship of ghosts. "We take the fight to them. We burn their labs. We expose every project, every experiment, every graveyard they built from our bones." I looked into the lens of the Vengeance's comm hub. "They left us to die. Now we're coming back, not for justice, for vengeance. And this time the whole galaxy will hear us scream." The moment we entered Helix cluster space, it felt wrong. Not just tense, unnatural, the kind of silence that doesn't belong in a living part of the galaxy. Corin 12 hung there in the void, tethered to a string of asteroid fragments like a spider curled up in its web. Its lights pulsed slowly, dimly, like it was breathing. "This place shouldn't exist," Vic said from the weapons terminal, his voice cold. He was right. The outpost wasn't built to defend. It was built to hide. Minimal emissions, organic hull plating, no registry tags. Everything about it screamed unauthorized, unholy, and undeniably human in design. This was where they sent what couldn't be explained, where failures were buried and successes turned into shadows. We were about to dig up every rotten secret they tried to keep in the dark. "Docking protocols overridden," Rhett announced. "They don't even know we're here yet. Stealth grid's working." "Good," I said. "Let's hit them before the alarms start." We launched the boarding pod manually. No auto-lock, no tether. We'd trained for this. A precision strike through the outer hull with just enough brute force to punch into one of their ventilation zones. We didn't want to go in through the front. That was suicide. They'd rigged the corridors with gas and neural disruptors. Not this time. We weren't going in to sneak around, though. We were going in to kill. They called us ghosts. But ghosts weren't this loud. I hit the floor of Corin 12 with my boots first and my rifle second. Rhett and Vic were right behind me. Grant stayed back on the Vengeance, commanding the second wave. If we didn't come back in 1 hour, they were to torch the entire station from orbit. We moved through narrow, bone-white halls, following the echo of machinery and low-frequency pulses that buzzed in our ears like wasps under the skin. Lights flickered. No guards, no response. "Too quiet," Rhett muttered. "They're watching." "Let them watch." We reached the first chamber, and that's when we saw what Command had been hiding. Rows of tanks, dozens, maybe hundreds, each one filled with green fluid, bodies suspended inside. Some whole, some torn, some twisted into things that shouldn't exist. Human skeletons stretched to inhuman proportions. Bones reinforced with carbon. Muscle weaved with synthetic fiber. Eyes replaced with scanner orbs. Breathing tubes forced into their throats. They weren't soldiers. They were constructs. Failures of genetic ambition and monstrous intent. "They tried to make better humans," I said, my throat tight, fists clenching. "And all they made were nightmares." Vic stepped closer, tapping the screen on one of the tanks. A name blinked up on the readout. Project Revenant, Subject 044, Lieutenant Dane, clone sample. My name, my DNA, my body. But the thing in the tank wasn't me. It was something else. Taller, broader, eyes wrong. It stared at us like it knew, like it was waiting. "They're cloning you," Rhett whispered. "That's how they've been replicating survival rates, by copying the soldiers who made it through the worst." "They're not cloning," I growled. "They're stealing." A hiss echoed through the chamber. Doors opened, and the lights turned red. Sirens blared as containment units across the lab began to open. One by one, hybrid soldiers, half machine, half man, stepped out. They moved in perfect sync. No hesitation. No fear. Just cold efficiency. Their eyes locked on us like we were nothing more than defective test material. "Contact!" I snapped. "Weapons free!" The first one lunged. I dropped it with 2 shots to the neck, but it didn't die. It twitched, staggered, then kept coming. Vic flanked left, drilling another 2 in the head. One fell, the other didn't. "They don't feel pain," he said, "and they're fast." We moved like a pack, fluid, practiced. Every step calculated, every corner cleared like we'd been born for this. Rhett dropped a sonic disruptor that scrambled their balance just long enough for us to move deeper into the station. But they didn't stop. Every hallway, every room. They came for us, swarming like a hive, their minds linked, their bodies fueled by whatever nightmare compound Command had fed them. We were outnumbered 10-1. But we weren't like them. We weren't programmed. We were angry. And we were free. We reached the central lab core after 30 straight minutes of non-stop combat. Blood on our boots, smoke in our lungs, ammo running low, but something pulled us forward. A signal, Hale's voice, buried deep in a repeating transmission. Room A9, stop them. Don't let them finish. I saw it. God help us all. It wasn't just test subjects anymore. They were building a prototype, a perfected version, something that could pass for human until it chose not to. We burst into A9 with everything we had, flashbangs, plasma charges, grenades, and we found it. The Alpha clone. He looked just like me, standing upright, breathing, calm, watching us with a smirk that felt wrong in every way. "You're late," he said. "Shut it," I snapped. "You're just a mistake." He shook his head. "Number, I'm the future. You're the relic." Then he attacked. It wasn't a fight. It was a war in 10 seconds. He moved like a demon, faster than me, stronger. He knew my moves before I made them. I fired point blank. He dodged. Hit me once. I flew back into a wall. Pain shot through my ribs. Again. Always the damn ribs. Vic fired at him. Alpha deflected the shots with his arm, then stabbed Vic in the thigh with a broken piece of steel. Rhett went down next, thrown into a console. Sparks flew. It was just me and him. Me and my copy. I pulled my knife, tactical carbon steel. Serrated. He laughed. "You think a blade's going to stop progress?" "No," I said, circling him. "But rage will." I lunged. He moved to block, but I faked the swing, spun low, and stabbed him straight through the gut. His smile faded. I twisted. "I'm not your blueprint," I hissed. "I'm your executioner." He gasped. Blood, real or not, poured out. "Why?" he choked. "Because you're the result of betrayal, and I'm the reckoning." We left Corin 12 burning, every tank shattered, every log copied, every abomination incinerated in plasma fire. Back on the Vengeance, Rhett uploaded the lab's core data to every Allied outpost, rogue channel, and rebel fleet we had access to. No more secrets, no more black labs, no more hiding behind classified. The truth was out. Terran Command had gone too far. They tried to erase us. Now we'd erase them. On the deck, I stood watching the station's remains spiral into the void. Hale sat beside me, his legs wrapped in bandages, but his spirit sharper than ever. "You think we've done enough?" he asked. I shook my head. "We've just begun." He looked at me, eyes heavy. "What happens when they send the real fleet? Not just labs, not just experiments. The whole damn army?" I turned, stared into the endless black, and felt the fire in my chest rise again. "They better bring everything they've got," I said, "because now they're fighting soldiers who've already been left to die." I paused, and this time, we're the ones hunting. They called it a containment order, issued from High Command's inner circle, Orion Block Delta. One signal blasted across every fleet relay in human-occupied space. Purge operation. All rogue warships, experimental units, and unauthorized broadcasts are to be eliminated immediately. No negotiations, no trials. Full military engagement approved. That wasn't a containment order. It was a death sentence. And it meant one thing. We'd hit a nerve. We didn't just uncover the truth. We pissed off the men who built their careers on lies, and now they were coming to clean up the mess. But they forgot something. They trained us, armed us, built their empire on our blood. And we weren't done bleeding yet. We didn't run. Instead, we sent our own signal, ripped from the data Rhett stole off Corin 12, coordinates, proof, footage, evidence. All of it bundled into a single transmission and broadcast to every sympathetic outpost, rogue commander, black ops unit, and shadow ally still breathing. The message was clear. They left us to die. We came back. Now we burn it all. They came to us in waves, old warships, repurposed mining vessels, hidden research barges rearmed with stolen plasma torpedoes, ghost crews from failed missions, Even old Earth colonials who hadn't flown a real combat op in years. Some were patched up with scrap metal and hope. But every one of them had a reason to fight. They called us insane. They were right. We were the Ghost Fleet now. Soldiers and survivors stitched together by pain, fueled by betrayal, and aimed like a spear straight at the heart of command. We'd hit enough secret labs. Now we were going to the source. Rhett found it. The Judgment Core. Hidden in orbit behind a collapsing dwarf star, shrouded from scans, guarded by a classified battle group so secret that even most admirals didn't know it existed. It was the control node, the data bank, the black box of the entire betrayal. If we got inside, we wouldn't just bring the truth. We'd tear down their whole damn infrastructure. One good hit, and every black site, every cloning lab, every soldier-for-profit scheme they ever ran would come unraveled. But they knew we were coming. And they were ready. The vengeance was quiet as we approached the core. No speeches, no prayers, just men and women locking in weapons, checking armor seals, syncing HUDs. Warriors who knew they might not come back. Fighters who'd already lost everything except the need to make someone pay. Grant stood beside me on the bridge. Hale was seated in a brace by the tactical station, bruised but locked in. I pulled up the display. The core floated like a dead god, hulking, cold, ringed with thousands of defense turrets and escort cruisers. Fleet strength? I asked. Estimated 32 ships, Rhett replied. 15 of those are Class 4 assault carriers. The rest are destroyers and sensor jammers. And us? He smirked grimly. 7 capital ships, 17 gunboats, and 1 pissed-off Marine with a voice the galaxy listens to. Damn right. The Ghost Fleet didn't ask for permission. They dropped from warp like a thunderstorm wrapped in steel and vengeance. Explosions lit up the void before half the enemy even realized what was happening. Grant led the opening volley, rail cannons tearing through the outer turrets, plasma lances gutting escort drones mid-turn. We hit them hard. And they hit back harder. Enemy fighters swarmed, EMP nets launched, fusion mines tore holes in our flanks. One of our oldest allies, the Red Widow, a salvaged X-class cruiser, took a direct hit and split into 2 flaming halves. No escape pods launched. They knew what this was. No one planned on surviving. We didn't come to retreat. We came to end this. Bring us in close, I barked. The Vengeance nosedived straight into the chaos, its shields flaring white from impacts, hull screeching with strain. Rhett rerouted power to front deflectors while Grant fired suppressive rounds into the core's central bay. We were going to breach it manually, old school. No teleporters, no autodock, just iron, fire, and human rage. "Drop squad ready," Vic yelled from the hangar. I pulled my helmet on, strapped into the lead pod, and took one last look at the burning stars outside. If this was how I went out, it was going to be my way. We punched through the core's outer hull with a deafening crash. Sparks, fire, screaming metal. The bay was already crawling with defenders, black-armored special units, trained not just to kill but to erase. No names, no ranks, just death. I hit the floor running, rifle barking before my boots landed. The squad followed close. Vic laid down cover while Hale, running on sheer grit and fury, dropped 3 commandos with precise shots to the skull. We moved like reapers through the station. No words, just war. Every corridor was a grave waiting to happen. We cleared rooms one by one, stacked bodies, took fire, gave more. And then we reached the command chamber, the core of the core, a circular room of white light and data streams. At the center, floating in a field of energy, was the server tower, the spine of the entire Terran shadow network. And guarding it was the bastard himself. Admiral Varric, the man who signed off on Jaren 4, the man who turned survival into product, the architect of the lie. He turned to face us, calm, hands clasped behind his back. "I had a feeling you'd come," he said. "Good," I replied. "Now you die with it." He smiled. Not like a man afraid, like a man ready. "You don't understand," he said. "You've exposed some of it, sure. But this system isn't just mine. It's bigger than me, bigger than you. Kill me and someone else takes my place. Burn this station and a dozen others keep the fires lit." I walked closer. "You're not wrong." He blinked. I raised my weapon, pointed it at the tower behind him. "I'm not here to end you, Varric. I'm here to end the whole system." And I fired. The bullet passed straight through his shoulder. He screamed. But it was just a warning. Behind him, the server sparked. Cables burst. The tower cracked. Rhett hacked in and started dumping every log into the ghost net. Our network of rebel-linked nodes scattered across the galaxy. Command couldn't stop it now. Their lies, their experiments, their betrayals, it was all going public. "You'll plunge the system into chaos," Varric croaked. I walked up to him, kneeled beside his bleeding body. "You plunged us into hell first." He spit blood. "You think this'll bring peace?" "No," I said, standing. "But it'll bring justice." We evacuated under fire. The Vengeance ripped us off the core with seconds to spare before the self-destruct system Varric triggered went critical. Hale pulled the last of us up through the loading bay just as the station exploded in a silent, majestic bloom of fire and memory. No more core, no more data. But it didn't matter. The GhostNet had it all. Within hours, the feeds were alive. News drones, encrypted signals, angry broadcasts from rebel captains, entire Terran colonies turning against local garrisons, whole battalions refusing orders, Marines painting over their insignias with black marks in honor of the Ghost Fleet. The Empire cracked. And for the first time in decades, we made it bleed. Back in my quarters, I sat in silence. No medals, no cheers, just names carved into the wall, my brothers, my squad, the dead. Hale walked in, slow, still limping. He stood beside me. "We did it," he said softly. I nodded. "Started it anyway." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "What now?" I looked up at the stars, the broken sky, and I smiled. "Now we keep going. For every man they erased, for every soul they cloned, for every one of us they left behind." I paused. "We become the nightmare they tried to create." You'd think when the Empire breaks, people celebrate. They don't. They panic. They scramble for meaning, for order, for a new enemy to fear once the mask of the old one's ripped off. That's the problem with tearing down monsters. There's always something darker lurking behind them. The truth was out. The GhostNet carried every last dirty file across the stars. Zarin 4, Theta 9, Corin 12, the clone labs, the genetic programs, the body dumps, all of it. It sparked revolts. It burned fleets. It inspired the forgotten. But it also opened the floodgates. Now everyone wanted blood. Not just soldiers like us. Not just the Ghost Fleet. Everyone. Civilian uprisings boiled over in fringe colonies. Whole cities lit their military outposts on fire. Loyalist governors vanished. Mercenary companies flipped sides. Spaceports locked down. Some of the surviving black site directors tried to flee the inner systems. Didn't get far. The rebels hunted them down, one by one. I watched the footage from the bridge of the Vengeance. Executions streamed live. Engineers dragged through the streets. Political officers flung into orbit from emergency airlocks. Not heroes doing it. Not soldiers with rank. Just people. People like us. Burned, used, broken. But they had no chain of command, no code, just vengeance. It wasn't justice. It was chaos. Grant leaned over the nav console, watching it all in silence. "They're eating themselves now," he muttered. "We lit the fire," I said, "and now it's burning too hot to hold." Rhett picked up the signal 3 days later. fragmented, encrypted with a protocol we hadn't seen before. It came from outside the human grid, way outside, deep void, beyond the mapped fringe, a ghost frequency bouncing off dark matter anomalies. That wasn't normal. He ran a brute force decrypt, took 6 hours and one burnt-out core processor. What came out wasn't a message. It was a warning. "They are coming! They aren't human! Project Ascendant failed! Shut it down! Shut everything down!" The voice wasn't familiar. It was scrambled, distorted. But the panic in it, that was real. Rhett paled as he ran diagnostics on the signal origin. "You're not going to like this," he said. "Try me." He pulled up the star chart. The source came from a sector labeled Erebus Depth, a cold void past even Zern territory, a place no sane mission went. But Terran Command had, because buried in one of the last data packets from the core was a classified directive, Project Ascendant, Erebus Site 9. Status, prototype containment compromised. Risk level, extinction. We were exhausted, beat to hell, running on borrowed time and stolen tech. But we knew what this was. Command hadn't just been building super soldiers. They were trying to reach beyond human, beyond biology, beyond comprehension. Cloning was Phase 1. Hybridization was Phase 2. Ascendant was Phase 3. Ascendant wasn't about creating soldiers, I muttered. It was about replacing humanity. Hale stood behind me, arms crossed, face grim. "They tried to play God, and now something's coming for them." Grant slammed his fist on the console. "We can't let that thing out." He was right. This wasn't a black site problem anymore. This was existential. If something from Erebus got loose, and if that broken message was anything to go by, it wouldn't stop at high command. It would burn everything. We jumped to Erebus. Not with a fleet, not with reinforcements, just us. No time to wait. No one left to trust. We were the ones who opened this mess. We were going to finish it. The system was black. Blacker than any place I'd ever seen. No stars, just void. Like light refused to stay here. Our scanners couldn't map more than a few hundred kilometers without getting scrambled. Then we saw it. Site 9. It floated like a tomb. No power signatures, no defense grid. Just a huge black station covered in warning lights, containment rings, and strange geometry that didn't match any Terran construction I'd ever seen. It looked wrong. Too sharp. Too intentional. Rhett spoke, his voice tight. "That station, some of it isn't human-built." My gut twisted. "What do you mean?" "I mean the outer hull is fused with non-carbon elements, metallic structures that don't match Earth's periodic chart. It's like Command didn't just build Ascendant. They found something." My stomach dropped. They didn't create it. They unleashed it. We boarded Site 9 like we had every other horror show. But this was different. There were no corpses, no screams, no blood, just stillness. Like the place had never been alive at all. Hale moved beside me, his weapon raised. "This doesn't feel like a lab," he whispered. I nodded. "It feels like a prison." And somewhere deep inside this tomb, something was still breathing. We followed the heat signatures. Buried under 12 levels of silence and flickering lights, we reached the core containment vault. A chamber bigger than a cruiser's cargo bay. At its center, a pod. Floating. And inside it? A man, or what used to be one. Naked, hairless, muscles too refined, skin too perfect, veins that pulsed with a faint golden glow. His eyes were closed, but his chest rose and fell with deep, slow breaths, like he was asleep, or dreaming. But it wasn't the body that chilled me. It was the feeling. I stood there, and every instinct in my body screamed. My hands shook, my mouth dried. Something in that pod didn't just feel dangerous, it felt ancient. like it didn't belong in this reality at all. Rhett pulled up the interface, sweating. "This is Subject 0, Ascendant Prime. Codename, Eidolon. He wasn't made here. He was found." Grant stepped forward. "Where?" Rhett swallowed. "An alien vault, buried under Europa's southern pole. He was entombed in a stasis crypt, dated tens of thousands of years before humans discovered fire." Silence. The truth was bigger than betrayal now. They hadn't just killed us. They hadn't just cloned us. They had dug up something older than war itself and tried to turn it into a weapon. And now it was waking up. The pod cracked, a single hairline fracture running down the center, then a hiss, then movement. His eyes opened. Not eyes, suns, golden, burning, no pupils, no whites, just fire trapped in flesh. And for the first time in a long, brutal war, I was afraid. He didn't speak. He looked at me, straight into me, and I felt something reach inside my chest, a voice, not in my ear, but in my head. "You are not ready," I fired, not to kill, just to test. The bullet froze in midair, stopped, hovered, then turned, slowly, deliberately. It pointed back at me. We ran. The containment field failed. Alarms screamed. Energy levels spiked. The gravity twisted. Rhett tried to override the controls. His fingers bled trying. "He's breaking the station!" he roared. We bolted. Gunfire useless. Reality bending behind us. Walls rippled. Steel turned soft. Lights bent toward the thing we woke up. And then, silence. The Vengeance reeled us in and jumped. No aiming, no calculations, just pure escape. We left Erebus burning behind us. But we knew it wasn't over. We hadn't killed the monster. We'd just opened the cage. Back aboard the ship, I sat with my head in my hands. The others were silent. No jokes, no war songs, just the kind of dread that lives in your bones. We hadn't ended the war. We'd just seen what was truly behind it. Hale stood beside me, hand on my shoulder. "If that thing comes for Earth..." I didn't let him finish. "It won't come. It'll call us to it." He didn't chase us. Eidolon didn't need to. When we jumped out of Erebus, we thought we had bought time. We hadn't. He was already moving, across systems, through void, into the places humans weren't meant to see. The ghost net flickered with strange anomalies. Ships disappearing, time delays across communication relays, gravitational fields bending around nothing. A dozen fleets tried to pursue him. None came back. And then came the visions. It started with dreams. Men waking up screaming. Pilots seeing things in the stars that weren't there. Engineers whispering in languages no one taught them. And always the same phrase repeated across scattered channels. The Ascendant sees. The Ascendant chooses. Whatever Eidolon was, it wasn't human. Maybe it never had been. Terran Command thought they could weaponize it. Now it was rewriting reality from the inside out. Rhett described it best, sitting at the Vengeance's tactical station, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. He's not using tech. He's not attacking in the ways we understand. He's redefining physics, rewriting biology. The rules don't apply to him anymore. "Can he be killed?" I asked. Rhett's hands trembled. "I don't think so." But we were going to try anyway, because this wasn't just about vengeance anymore. This was survival, species survival. And if someone had to make the last shot, it was going to be me. The Ghost Fleet, what remained of it, rallied near the dying sun of Hydra Prime. Only 15 ships now, half of them running on spare parts and patched engines. But they came. Every one of them. Broken warriors, forgotten soldiers, survivors of wars no one remembered, and battles that were never recorded. They weren't there for glory. They were there to finish what they started. I stood in the Vengeance's hangar, watching crews load weapons, patch hulls, gear up for something they couldn't even understand. Hale joined me, his leg now permanently braced. He looked like hell, but his grip on his rifle hadn't weakened a bit. "You know we're not coming back," he said. I nodded. "Doesn't matter." He gave a dry smile. "Good." And then he came. Not in a ship. Not through jump space. He simply arrived. Eidolon stepped out of the darkness like reality folded around him, like space gave way before something older than time. No engines, no shields, just one man. Tall, glowing, walking across the surface of Idra Prime like it was his kingdom. The sky cracked open above him, black lightning arcing into orbit. Gravity shifted. Some of our ships began to drift without thrust. Others went offline entirely. His presence alone disrupted everything we were built on. He looked up at us, and we felt it. Not words, not a signal, just a choice. Join or vanish. We answered with fire. The Ghost Fleet lit him up with everything we had: railguns, plasma cannons, graviton spikes, atomic cores. The atmosphere burned with weapons mankind had spent centuries perfecting. But Eidolon didn't move. He let it hit, he let it burn, and then he stepped through the smoke, untouched. We dropped, a final insertion. Me, Hale, Vic, Rhett, a few others. The best left. The last charge. We hit the surface like falling blades, straight into the crater where Eidolon waited. He didn't attack. He just stood there, arms behind his back, watching like a father waiting for disobedient children to come to their senses. I raised my rifle. "Whatever you are," I said, "you're not God." He smiled. "Not yet." Then he moved. We didn't fight a man. We fought possibility. He bent time, moved between bullets, made the ground ripple beneath our feet. Our weapons melted. Rhett screamed as his comms unit fused into his skull. Vic fired a final shot and then vanished, erased, like he had never existed. But we kept going. Not because we could win, because someone had to try. Hale took the hit for me. Eidolon launched a wave of energy, cold, humming, beautiful in the most terrifying way. Hale pushed me aside and took it straight to the chest. He didn't scream. He just dropped, mouth open, eyes wide, and never moved again. Another brother gone. Another name carved into memory. I ran, straight into the eye of the storm. Eidolon reached for me. Not to kill, to change. I felt it. My muscles twisting, vision blurring, memories slipping. He was rewriting me. But I fought it. I fought him with everything inside me. Every betrayal, every ghost, every scream from Zarin 4, every friend lost, every promise broken by a system that turned warriors into weapons and then into trash. I wasn't just a Marine. I was the result of their failure, their unfinished story, and now I was the one holding the pen. I reached him. He touched my chest. Pain lanced through every nerve in my body. But I smiled, because Rhett had given me one last card to play. Strapped under my armor was a microcore, a prototype destabilization unit made from Corin 12's clone reactor. Unstable, illegal, untraceable, and completely deadly if detonated at the quantum level. I whispered, "This is for everyone you erased," and triggered it. Light, endless, all-consuming, a flash that swallowed stars. I don't know how I survived. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm dead and this is just memory, echoing through the system like a dying breath. But when I opened my eyes, Eidolon was gone. The crater was empty, and my body ached in ways I didn't understand. The vengeance found me hours later, half buried in ash, radiation burns covering half my chest. Hale was gone. So was Vic. Rhett's last message still burned on my compad. "We don't die for them anymore. We die for each other." We won, if you can call it that. The Ghost Fleet scattered, disbanded. No more wars to fight. No more monsters left to chase. Only wounds to carry and names to remember. Command was gone. Burned. Discredited. The Empire fractured into colonies, alliances, federations, everyone fighting over what to become next. But me? I left. Took the vengeance to the edge of space, the real edge, past the old jump lanes, past the mapped systems, somewhere quiet, somewhere where the silence doesn't mock you, somewhere to rest. Because I'm tired. So damn tired. But if you're reading this, if the story survived, remember one thing. They left me to die in space, and I came back. Not for medals, not for glory, for truth, for vengeance, and for everyone they tried to erase.